Greetings. Now, today I want to talk about how law enforcement can help targeted individuals and people that are victims of gang stalking, how they can detect it. So, I want to start off by saying that if law enforcement is truly interested in helping someone, which is being targeted and stalked, first they want to look to see if there's any documented proof. Is there any video proof, polygraph tests, private investigation reports, witnesses, etc.? This can be emails, a long list of stuff. And the second one being communicating with target. You want to communicate with the target so the target can draw out the perpetrators, the perps, or if it's multiple people. But this cannot be done by a police officer simply monitoring a person. It's not going to happen, because these people that are doing this stuff in our communities all across America a lot of times have training in counter surveillance. See, they're profiting off of this. So by communicating with the target is going to be less hostile, is going to be less offended, because if you are on the same page with the target and you are trying to catch criminals, then you're going to be communicating, say, okay, I'm on this street, I'm over here. So that way, if you're doing surveillance with the target to catch these people, you can effectively get these people off our streets. But it's never going to work when police are using traditional policing methods, or they're networking with like the FBI, the CIA, the fusion centers. You're never ever going to be able to stop a potential problem when you're dealing with the federal government. Remember, they are a separate entity. So when you are dealing with Department of Homeland Security, you're dealing with a governmental organization. In a sense, city, state, federal government, they're all in a sense tied to the government, but they are separate divisions. They have their own administrative tasks. So Rule 406, habit routine approach, is in the federal rules of evidence, and it pretty much states that when you are able to see a pattern where a person or a group of people, this can be an organization, has exhibited a pattern of or practice of harassing people, targeting people, that can be used as evidence. Remember, just because you're a law enforcement officer does not mean that you have to go along with the FBI and different organizations. You can say yes to protecting our constitutional rights, and also understand that a huge portion of FBI agents and other clandestine groups and contractors are filled with respectable people. But also remember, they're being paid to profit off the misery of another person in many cases. So you also want to have connections with subject matter experts. Even if they work in a fusion center, the city, the state, the federal government, you want to communicate with subject matter experts. Being a cop for 15 or 20 years does not entitle you to say I'm a subject matter expert in gang stalking or surveillance or whatever, unless you have the credentials and you really have the experience. So you really need to have subject matter experts. Now, if you are someone which knows the area very well, you know the people there, you know how to communicate, well, maybe that can be taken in consideration in a court of law when you have a lot of experience communicating with people. But if you have poor communication skills and you're just a cop that just shuffles through paper, you're going to want to get a subject matter expert, and you're going to want to get subject matter experts that are not so much always tied to the state or the federal government, but people that have the knowledge and experience to help you see if what a person is describing is potentially a case of stalking or an incitement of violence, etc. Also, you also want to look to see if there's any evidence. Law enforcement, I made a mistake here. Bear with me one moment. You want to see if there's any evidence, number 5, that law enforcement has failed or refused to investigate. So this includes a person, let's say a person was stalking, in my case, in 2015. I think it was around like 2015, 2016. It might be around like close to February of 2016. I went to the Maine Police Department in downtown Austin, and they denied me help. They told me, why should we help you? And I had a car following me for 17 miles every block I turned, but I didn't have my cell phone on me with me that day. So the police refused to help me. I pleaded with them for like 15 minutes, and they're like, no, we're not going to help you. So you want to see if there's any video documentation of that. You also want to look to see if the state attorney, district attorney have failed to investigate, if they've been contacted. Will they reply back? Has the city constable shared resources? Are they on the same page with the fusion centers? And are they sharing resources and harassing people in the community? Those are indicators that they're supporting this. So let's go on here. I'm going to talk about some different ways you can conduct surveillance to be able to effectively notice gang stalking, also known as community mobbing and covert harassment, which has caused a lot of serious problems in many cities, many which have gone undocumented as being cases related to gang stalking or organized harassment. The first one I like is that I talk about is restaurants / bars. This can be like a Ruby Tuesday, a Fridays, a Mexican restaurant, whatever. So you'll notice these little dots all represent, they all represent tables in this scenario. And if it's circled, it represents that a person is there. So here's a perp. And then here's a person over here. So you see all these dots represent, let's say that they all represent empty tables. But if they're circled, that means that someone's sitting there. So let's say the target is sitting in the very corner of the restaurant. Two people come in, one person sits here, another person sits there. So we have two perps, and we have a target right here. So while the target is eating his food, another person is in his space. It's not illegal, but when you see that pattern, you want to investigate those people. So if you have a cop inside and one outside, one person can get the tag, another person can see what's going on. But it's not advised to utilize surveillance on a target which is already feeling threatened, because first of all, the target in many cases doesn't own a weapon. They're just a regular typical American, and then when they are being surveilled, they feel threatened because they don't know who you are. So we don't want to have an encounter, we don't have to create a situation when there is none. Remember, the target isn't the threat. The problem is the people that are doing this. So they may utilize indirect conversations. Let's say the target went to Walmart, Ross, and the farmer's market and bought 3 different items. The perp may be sitting right next to them on the phone talking to their friend about the same items the target bought. May utilize terms such as gang stalking, organized harassment, laugh in their face, cough with their mouth open repeatedly nearby the target, laugh in their face. So when the target complains about it, guess what? Nothing is done because the perpetrators normally don't have a criminal record, but they're doing criminal activity. Another thing gang stalkers like to do is, let's say this parking lot, all these dots represent cars. And let's say you're at an airport, you're at a library, your school, community college, whatever. The perpetrator will normally park in a corner somewhere so they can observe the other perpetrator. And what they will do is they will park right next to the target. So when the target is walking out of a supermarket or whatever, the perpetrator may cough, may spit inches away from them, and every time they go to that same place, they see that same scenario, and the perpetrator may be standing behind the car, in front of the car, smoking a cigarette. They may have stickers on their car talking about murder and death and violence, revolutionary type stuff, radical feminism, all types of different stuff. So hold on one second. Let me make sure I didn't move this out of the way so it can be seen. I'm just going to go ahead and just hold this. So, okay, we talked about restaurants, parking lots. Now we're going to go to schools. Now, there are many people which are being harassed in U.S. schools now. And what the perpetrator will do is sit close to the target, and the perpetrator, they will establish relationships with the school teacher and an administrative staff. It can be through the Citizens Corps programs, etc. And what they will do is the perpetrator will make a smart remark towards the target. Oh, you look like a homosexual, or you look like a drug dealer, or you look like this and that. And the teacher may say, yeah, I agree. And then every school the target goes, they will have the same type of encounters everywhere they go. And these people may drive black SUVs and wear black suits and black shades. Also, hospitals. Let's say the target has a severe health issue and the target's just going to a hospital to get health treatment. Well, sometimes the perpetrators will actually go into the doctor's office, sit in there, and the exact moment the target gets walks out of the doctor's office, they walk out with them. So they've never signed up. So when the target enters the hospital, they may see someone walking at the same time as them and sitting down at the very bottom floor in the lobby. And when they walk out, they walk out. No big deal, right? But then when they walk out, they may say the target's name, something like that. And then they will also notice that the security has been informed about them. And that the security, in many cases, will get involved too. Also, church. Let's say you're at church, and let's say this represents the perpetrator's car, and this is the target's car. The perpetrator will go into the church. They could be tied to a Citizens Corps program, an affiliate, whatever, and what they will do is sometimes try to mimic the target. So let's say the target is making notes. The person may do this right here and try to mimic them, but they're not actually writing on paper. And they're actually harassing them. So when the target exits the church, they may notice multiple white vehicles parked next to their vehicle, all in a straight line. This could be 20 white cars, etc. Also, supermarkets. I've gone through this for a long time. I have literally, I would say about 26 hard drives from computers that were attacked. I wiped them out and utilized them as USB drives. So I've sent all these out now just recently, a bunch of these hard drives that I have, and I have like 2 left now. I'm about to send them out this week. Excuse me if my speech is bad. I still have a sore throat. So in supermarkets, what they will do is they will wait to the exact moment the target is going to the cashier, and they may do weird stuff. Let's say this aisle says 15 items or more, and they may get behind the target with 1 Mountain Dew, and then they're living in a city with 1.2 million people. No big deal, right? But then they go there the next week at 6:12. Let's say there's 500 people in there. And guess what happens? That same perpetrator gets behind the target again. And this time they're buying the same exact goods as them. They may also be seen when they enter and exit the place, and they normally will wear black clothes or clothes that are similar to each other. They may also park in... Hold on a second. They may also park across from the target, and they may be seen entering a store with with a fully loaded backpack with nothing in it, and then they walk out the same time with the target. And every time the target goes shopping, they walk with the book bag. It's empty. You may also see stickers that say U.S. Army. You may have a lot of encounters with people that look like they have low to moderate IQ levels, because sometimes these people utilize people that are disabled, deaf, retarded, and I'm not trying to be rude, but it's the truth. A lot of these groups are equal opportunity employers, or they have friends and they utilize their kids to take part in this, so they give them money. So every time a target goes, sometimes they'll have the cashier, sometimes will get involved. If the supermarket is involved in like an emergency management, they may contact the manager, assistant store manager, and then that person will end up being harassed every single time they go there. They may walk to their car and they may see, that they're parked in the very, very back, and there's 8 cars around them or more, and everyone's wearing a black shirt just sitting there. And then once the target gets in their vehicle, they all back up and leave. Just crazy stuff. You also may have targets complain about harassment at parks. So sometimes what the target will do is, let's say the sidewalk is as wide as this room. So what the gang stalkers will do is, when the target is walking, actually I have this wrong, let's put target and perp. The target is walking, the perpetrator is walking on this side, will just go off into the grass, maybe spit as they pass by them, close to them. And gang stalkers love to spit close to the target. They may be jogging, and then once they pass by the target, the exact moment they're about to pass by, they come to a complete stop, and then they spit towards the target. But it doesn't get on them. They spit on the side, and they do it nonstop, and they do it when they enter and exit parks, stores, etc. Also, vehicular harassment. I had this encounter with this lady that was harassing me, and she drives a black SUV, sometimes white cars, and I have a video about this on my other channel, and I actually have shown illustrations of this. What they do, I had an encounter with someone where I was eating food, and they removed a fully functional headlight from their vehicle. They were on the phone, grabbed it with the rag, and just took it out. And they followed me for multiple blocks with one headlight. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to sensitize the target, so that way when the target sees someone driving with one headlight, they get furious and think that they're being harassed. So this movement is about causing people to lash out on innocent people. They also get neighbors involved in this under the false guise of community policing and community outreach. And they may do this nonstop to the target and laugh about it. So it's a form of psychological, warfare. If you really look at it. Hold on one second, because I gotta turn this around and my battery looks like it's going dead. So hopefully I can finish this. So hold on a second. Okay. So targeted individuals. Targets ask police for help as a last resort. So we need to remember that when people go to police, they're going to police as a last resort. Also, police should encourage the target if they're being harassed, and police can only do so much. They should encourage the target to, maybe speak to a counselor if they have resources, if they have people through local neighborhood watch groups, block watch captains, say, hey, here's a number to a block watch captain. We'll be in touch with you, communicate with neighbors, communicate with people with the target's, support. If they're going to allow it, say, hey, they don't mind, can we have people from the block watch group communicate with you? Don't isolate them and make them feel like they're a problem when they're not. Also, police have a duty to investigate. Maybe they don't always have a duty to protect, but they also have a duty to investigate. And see if you can find them help or support. There may be some targets which have been harassed so much where they may need to seek professional help due to anxiety or other issues. So also, do not make assumptions. If you're a police officer, do not make assumptions without facts. Because remember, let's look at what happened to Julia Davis, Brittany Murphy, and many other people. NSA whistleblower Karen Stewart. Don't make assumptions. When you make assumptions and you believe everything you're told, then guess what? You're nothing more than a mind-controlled zombie. And these people operate by getting people to do what they want. It's one thing if you're fighting against crime, you're conducting an investigation, but you're not conducting an investigation if you're systematically harassing someone. Also, consider conducting interrogations on those which you think may be involved in organized crime, organized harassment. Gang stalkers love to make phone calls to people's phones, relatives, and they'll do the same thing to even friends. And they may be spotted spitting really close to the target in large groups, sometimes throwing trash. I've actually caught these people throwing trash on my property. One works for Public Works, and I'm doing research on FEMA stakeholders in this regard. I've experienced vandalism, harassment by neighbors and kids. One of these kids was actually spotted on an Explorers program website, along with senior citizens. A lot of times these people will yell as they pass by you in your face, laugh in your face, and this was being done by a group called Citizens Corps that works for the Texas Association of Regional Councils, and they are friends with the National Sheriff's Association, National Neighborhood Watch. They're funded by the Department of Justice. They might be yelling and buying the exact items as you, following you, utilizing indirect conversations where, let's say, your aunt just called you from Wyoming, and they may get behind you and say, oh, my aunt just called me from Wyoming, start laughing and run out of a store. Them are ways to piss the target off, and they may do this hundreds, if not thousands of times per year. Targets may have a lot of encounters. We'll put DOD above military personnel. A lot of military personnel are getting involved in this, and there are a lot of small businesses, like small disenfranchised businesses that are owned by women and minorities and so on, veterans. They're getting recruited into this. There's a lot of defense contractors that are profiting off of subcontracting, and there's a lot of fraternal orders. So if we're not investigating these people and trying to find out what fraternal orders they belong to, it's going to be really hard to catch these people. Also put corpses, corporations, fusion centers, they participate in this. Also, police can press charges. It doesn't matter if they work for Citizens Corps or a corporation. They can be charged with inciting violence, stalking. There's a bunch of other things. So we want to look to see if these people are doing this. Are they profiting off of this? What is the incentive and what is the outcome or possible outcome for the target? So we know that gang stalkers are instigating violence. Now, how would the normal rational person react to being systematically harassed? Can you imagine every day your wife or your child getting phone calls where a person doesn't answer the phone, and then when you call back, they say, "Oh, someone called my number," when you know full well that no one called them, and they may do this for years and years. So you also find that there is a tremendous amount of radical feminism, liberalism, a lot of different groups with different philosophies, different thoughts. I'm not saying anything bad about Satanists or Wiccans or a lot of these radical political groups that have revolutionary ideologies. They're in a lot of these different groups, and they're utilizing people from universities, colleges. So this can be your local University of New Mexico. They may have a what do you call an AmeriCorps program. And if you're being followed around by a bunch of college kids in your community, that's not a joke. And then on top of that, being harassed by your constable and explorers program, InfraGard, supermarkets, hospitals. So what happens essentially is that the target feels that everyone is against them because every moment of their life is toxic. So if they're being harassed in supermarkets and they're documenting this, who's going to want to date that person? This is going to destroy a person's life and prevent them from living a long, healthy life, because you cannot raise a family in that type of environment. What woman is going to want to be around a person which is being harassed systematically? Now, bear with me one moment. So we know that according to the FBI, I think it's 96% of all mass shooters have been male. So we know that mass shootings are linked to isolation, anger, those type of emotions. We already know this. So if we are putting more problems on a person, what we're really doing is stirring up a bunch of shit. After a while, when someone's done something wrong, it's like there has to come to a point where it's like, you know what? Maybe we should leave this person alone, because we really need to look at why are people doing the things that they're doing? Why are they saying the things that they're saying? And what is the outcome? And that's a problem, a real serious problem that we have in America, is that we don't look at the outcome of problems. So let's just do it. And we keep putting our fingers in our ears, and when people are telling people something, no one listens until something serious happens, and you should never take that. So my channel promotes nonviolence. I'm not here with a weapon. I'm here with legal stuff, and I'm just, sharing important information which may be useful to law enforcement. Because if we have a bunch of people just driving around using predictive policing software programs, stalking, harassing people, thinking they're doing law enforcement duties, they're not. Because if you are looking for a problem, you're always going to find a problem. But if you're confronting people which aren't committing crimes, then you're looking for a problem. If you're harassing people, like I've seen cops, this is no joke, I've seen them where they parked next to me, and then when I get out of the store, they're laughing at me, and then I see a guy next to the police car walking towards me once they exit the store, and they're wearing a black shirt, and they start waving. But then when I look, they're not waving at no one. So they do these little NLP tactics, neurolinguistic programming, little skits, and this can be simply like, here's a marker. You're taking a walk. And as you're taking a walk, this guy just throws something right there. No big deal, right? I would laugh at that. If it hit me, then I'd probably say something. So let's say that what they're doing is they're trying to place into you psychological triggers. That's like right now, if I'm walking and there's a person walking here, and as right when they get in front of me, they come to a complete stop and they go, pff, but they don't spit on me. They spit inches away from me. So what they're trying to do is commit acts where they can get away with it, where it's not technically considered a crime, and where they're utilizing many stakeholders to legalize stalking. Well, we know that stalking, according to Department of Justice, is linked to violence. And this is the same activity our government is funding right now. Anyways, thank you for listening. Say no to violence, and God bless. Peace.